Directed by Felipe Vargas, Rosario was not necessarily a terrible film, but it was very anticlimactic, kind of went on and on for little to no reason. It wasn't necessarily what we thought it would have been, and it definitely could have done a little bit more with the lore and a little bit more with the actors and actresses and the whole story itself, because there's a whole great premise behind the nature of the film. However, this film leaves a little bit to be desired. There are some good elements about it, so let's get into that. What is up, everyone? Thank you so much for joining me for another video. So we're going to be talking about Rosario, and as I said, it wasn't a terrible film, but there were some things in it that I just thought we didn't really need, and there could have been more as well that could have made it a little bit more engaging and a little bit less telling and less predictable, and could have enhanced the film itself because of the nature of what it transpires in the film and what the lore is in the film. So let's get into some characters first, and then we'll talk about the themes in the film and what transpires. Our leading lady is Emerald Tobia. She plays Rosario Fuentes. Jose Zuniga is Oscar Fuentes, her dad, and he probably was the best parts of the film for me, along with Emerald Tobia. She did a great job as well for what she had in her arsenal. David Dastmalchian, who played Joe, always a great actor in things that he's in. He always plays these weird, creepy roles, and he does a great job with them, and this one he did a good job with as well. You also have Paul Van Victor, who played Marty, the super of the building, and his character was quite interesting. We see a little bit of eeriness with everything and everywhere we go within this film, so that's one thing that I can praise while we're talking about the characters here, is there are times where I'm like, oh wow, that's creepy, or they're a little weird. It just adds a little bit more to the elements of the film and more to why I think that this film could have been a lot better had they done a little bit more and fleshed out a little bit more of their elements. Diana Lean, she plays Elena slash Cobayende, which is the deity that is involved within the lore of the story, and like I said, we'll get into that later on. And finally, Costanza Gutierrez, she plays Griselda, the grandmother. So the basic synopsis is Rosario, she is a successful Wall Street broker in New York City, and she has this amazing success, and slowly throughout the film we find out that her grandmother had made a deal so that her granddaughter could fully reach her potential and reach heights that she had never seen or even heard of before. So her grandmother practiced Palo, which is a religion involving dark rituals and blood sacrifices. Yeah, I know, that is kind of crazy and really great grounds for a great film. And in this film, they kind of they throw it in there, but I feel like it's just kind of shoehorned in, and she just kind of is like, oh, okay, this is what I need to do, and this is what happens, and this is what we're doing. Bam. It's just kind of like, okay, I mean, you really knew nothing about this, and all of a sudden we're just, experts. It's just, okay, well, we'll continue. So Palo is a syncretic religion blending African ritualism and Catholicism. Now, both of those things are absolutely crazy. There's voodoo, there's the idea behind the wickedness and cruelty and deceitfulness of certain aspects of Catholicism and just religion in general. Obviously, somebody gets tricked here, and when you watch the movie, you will see who, how, and why. But basically, Rosario gets a call that her grandmother is no longer with us. She has to go visit her grandmother, and she finds out that there's a blizzard, and so she's stuck in her grandmother's apartment with the dead body there. That's already a big red flag. And mind you, her grandmother had been calling her beforehand, and it seemed like she had been dead for a while, so that whole thing comes into play later on as well. Throughout the film, she is dealing with these ethereal forces and just weird things in the room, because I mean, it's creepy. It's creepy being with a dead body locked in like that, and she can't get out really because there's a storm, and her father calls her that he's coming and everything. So there's a lot going on, but there's also not much going on. So that's why I say, like, this movie has great elements, because the whole thing about being stuck inside with a dead body, that's a great premise. And the idea of Palo, the syncretic religion, and the idea behind the ethereal forces and all of that entails with like voodoo and the practices, it's a great idea. It's a great premise. It's just they kind of fell flat on their face with it, in my personal opinion. So we get throughout the film, and Rosario finds out, what truly is going on. She starts seeing things and hearing things and feeling things. She finds out what's going on. She finds something in the apartment, which I don't know how that would be in a New York studio apartment anyway, but here we are. I'm not gonna nitpick everything. So she finds out what's going on, and that's what I mean is when we get to that part, she finds out what's happening, she finds everything, and then she's like, what the heck? You just get into more of her doing what needs to be done about the whole situation inside the apartment and the ethereal forces, and it's just kind of weird because you're like, well, how does she know how to do that exactly? Yes, there might be instructions or whatever the case is, but if she really didn't have any idea about this really, then how and why would she know how to do all of that so perfectly? So that was just one thing. And then you have David Dastmalchian, who comes in as Joe, and Joe was a good friend and neighbor of the grandmother. So he's there, and there's like a little situation with him, and it just seems a little bit excessive. Like, don't get me wrong, like some of the acting is pretty good and some of it is a little wishy-washy. Overall, there's just things that go on and you're like, well, why did we need this? Well, why are we having that conversation? Why is that happening right now? And on top of that, why wouldn't somebody have come? It's just, there's so many things and elements within this that make you question the writing a little bit. However, the cinematography with a lot of the movie is pretty good. The practical effects, the idea, and like I said, the notion and theme behind this, it's pretty good overall, but the movie itself was just made in a way and directed in a way that I wasn't that big of a fan of. I can praise certain elements like the scare factor with some things, but overall we weren't really that scared with the movie. It wasn't really like a true body horror film as they are claiming that it is, but it was made pretty well. And I will say that Mr. Zuniga, who played Oscar Fuentes, he did a great job because he comes in at a certain point and you're like, oh geez. And it's just crazy what transpires in the film surrounding the themes. But overall, I wouldn't say you should rush and watch this online. I wouldn't say that it's one of the best movies of 2025 leading into 2026. It's not even close. It is something that I'd say watch just to kind of say that you watched it, and because of the lore, I like the whole ritualistic aspect behind it. It's a pretty interesting premise and concept. It's just kind of fell flat on its face, and they really lost you there. They really lost you there in the middle of the movie. I mean, I can tell you firmly, if you're a true cinephile, you're gonna get lost in this movie halfway in, and you're gonna be like, why are we even watching this? Like, what is this? It's not really making sense. It's not really adding up. And I hate saying that because I love watching movies. I love TV. I love cinema. I love all of those things. And this movie just did not bring it the way that I thought it would, and the way how the trailers kind of portrayed it. Overall, wasn't necessarily the best film, but I do have to give props to Jose Zuniga and Amaru Tabia. They did a great job in this movie, even though there were some times where the dialogue and acting was a little lackluster, but overall, they carried it. And it was decent to watch, but overall not one of my favorite films and not one of the best films. So thank you guys for watching this video. It's much appreciated. Stay tuned for the next review. Until the next one.